Are you shopping for a new CD transport but feeling overwhelmed by high prices? Well, SMSL just dropped their budget-friendly CD transport, and today I'm going to put it up against a much more expensive high-end model to see if I can help save you some money. Can this new affordable transport actually outperform one that costs 3 times as much? Hi there, my name is Aaron, and last year I bought my first CD transport and it was very expensive. And I enjoyed using it until this budget model from SMSL showed up and blew me away. I've now tested these two units side by side and found 6 surprising reasons why the cheaper one might be the smarter buy. Be sure to stick around to the end, and I'll even tell you if I heard any sound differences between the two transports when connected to the same DAC, the results of which might surprise you. Before we start, my goal with this video is not to simply compare two CD transports, but rather it's to challenge the idea that you always have to spend more money to get great performance. The new SMSL transport costs significantly less than many high-end options, but does it actually deliver the same level of quality? To test this, I'm using the schiit, which I paid $1,299 for, as the expensive comparison. But this video isn't just about one product versus another. My hope is to compare the more affordable CD transport option and see if it stacks up against one 3 times the price, because if it does, you have the opportunity to save money when you are shopping for a CD transport. So don't get too bogged down in the ERD's specific features, but let's use it as a guide for what transports in the same price range offer compared to the PL200T. Let's jump into the first reason now. The PL200T isn't just about today's technology, it's also built with future compatibility in mind. It offers I2S, AES EBU, coaxial, and optical outputs, ensuring that it can integrate seamlessly with both current and future DACs. Not all high-end transports offer these digital output options. For instance, the ERD does not provide for I2S, but it does provide for USB. The $1,600 9000 CDT from Audiolab only has 2 outputs, coax and optical, which is the same with the $995 Leak CDT and even the $599 transport from Cambridge. So it's impressive that SMSL is able to provide a transport with more digital outputs than any of these at a lower price. The PL200T offers a high-precision drive mechanism that's designed for stable, error-free playback with an interesting top-loading mechanism that I really enjoyed using. A lot of the more expensive transports we see when shopping are all slot-loaded or drawer mechanisms, which can fail. For instance, the CD drawer on this ERD stopped working after a year of use, and I had to send it back and it was repaired under warranty. That's something I don't have to think about when using the less expensive SMSL unit, and besides, who doesn't enjoy seeing the disc spin while playing? The PL200T is the fastest loading CD device I've ever used. Once you place the vibration damper and lid down on the disc, it reads it quickly and is ready to begin playing. You will note on the ERD that it takes a little longer than the SMSL to load and play, which is most likely due to the drawer mechanism, a common feature on more expensive CD transports like I mentioned in the last point. So paying a fraction of the cost to have a CD load and play quickly is another reason this PL200T shines over my more expensive transport. The next reason is for my friends who appreciate a good design aesthetic. A lot of expensive transports are still fashioned to replicate the look of a traditional CD player, and while that might be convenient for folks who like to stack gear or anyone who needs their gear to be perfectly aligned, the larger casing costs more money to produce, which is passed along to us, the consumer. The PL200T is sleek, compact, and fits easily into any setup without sacrificing performance. If you don't need a massive metal case to feel like you've got your money's worth, this is a huge win. If while watching this video you're thinking to yourself, I wish I could email Aaron and ask him some more questions about CD transports, you can actually do that. All you have to do is click on the link in the first pinned comment on this video, and it will sign you up for my email newsletter. And once you confirm, it will send you my personal email address, and you can feel free to email me any questions you have. So consider signing up for that email newsletter today. Let's talk about input options. Some CD transports offer the ability to connect a device via USB and use it more like a digital hub. For instance, on the Earth, there's actually 2 USB inputs, but I'll be honest with you, I only ever really found a reason to use one. But I was surprised to see the SMSL transport has a USB input as well at this price point. So if you're shopping for a transport and think only the most expensive ones allow for this input connectivity, think again. Fans of digital playback take jitter and clocking very seriously when shopping for a transport. And I was happy to see that SMSL really took this into consideration when designing the PL200T. For instance, the unit supports a 44.1 kHz world clock and a 10 MHz standard or atomic clock with input impedance matching options of 50 or 75 ohms. This ensures minimal jitter and improved synchronization with your digital components. I can't say all expensive transports clocking is better than the SMSL or worse. I was just impressed that SMSL could put this same attention to detail in a transport at this price point. Now, before I talk about any sound differences between these two units, I know there's going to be a few questions, so even though I said I wasn't going to do a direct comparison between these two units, I do want to point out a few similarities because I think it'll help answer those questions. The first is that both of these units come with remote controls. To be honest with you, the PL200T's remote feels pretty plasticky, lightweight, and cheap. While the schiit's remote is nice and heavy with an aluminum case, but it doesn't actually offer that many options or functions available on it. The second is that both of these players have no issues with gapless playback, and the third is that neither of these units play SACD. Now, I think it's important to talk about the sound differences between these two transports because this is where money plays an important factor for me. Honestly, when I connected both of these transports to the same DAC, which for me is my daily driver, the Dynafrips Aries 2, I could not hear a huge difference between either of these transports. And I think this is important because I paid almost 3 times as much for the ERD as I would have if I had bought the PL200T, which is currently on loan to me from Apos Audio. So I didn't get 3 times better sound by buying the ERD than the PL200T. And I've made a lot of videos recently about CD players and using them as transports and dedicated CD transports. And I think the important thing to keep in mind here is you're not going to hear, in my opinion, major sound differences by spending more money. The frustrating thing for me was for years, it always felt like to get a dedicated transport, you were spending close to or well over $1,000. Like it was just always so expensive. And that's why people just decided to use cheap Blu-ray players or DVD players or old vintage CD players as transports instead. What I think is interesting is that the PL200T is really challenging those higher end models with this new price point of just $500, which I've even seen it go on sale for a lesser price. And by challenging it at that price level and not really having that big of a difference in sound, it means that if you are interested in buying a dedicated CD transport and you've been overwhelmed by high prices, you no longer really have to be overwhelmed anymore because the PL200T is coming in at a much lower price. Now, granted, you still have to buy an external DAC to pair with the CD transport, but let's be honest, a lot of us may already have those DACs lying around anyway. So this is what I think is really interesting about sound differences. You're not going to hear a multiple sound improvement when spending that much more money. And again, that's what makes me excited about the PL200T coming in at just $500. At this point in the video, you might be thinking to yourself, what's the difference between a CD transport and a CD player? Should I just buy a CD player or a CD transport? Well, that's a great question. I just recently made a video on which is better for you, a CD transport or a CD player. If you'd be interested in watching that video, you can do so by clicking here.